Hello everyone, this is Asan. In this video, what we can do is basically extend our previous work and create a user-defined function which takes as input or passed by, it takes two parameters as passed by value, or it takes two arguments as passed by value to a certain function which computes the maximum of these two numbers that were given as input, and it spits out or returns the value which is the maximum among these two. One use of this can be like this situation. We can say that find the value of the function this 3 comma 4 2 plus 2. So we know as human that the maximum of 3 and 2 is 3, and when this value of 3 is returned and added to 2, the result is 5. So what we could do is we can write a user-defined function, and the way to write a user-defined function is we say, let's say we want to write a function which is find max, which takes in two integers, value 1, value 2, and it returns an integer, and then we give all the values inside, and we must put this thing as prototype outside. That's how it's done. So you write a user-defined function at the end of main, and you must put the name copy like this, exactly this, with a semicolon at the end on top, which is called a function prototype. So function prototype, and then we made a mistake, it should be int here, so it takes another thing called an integer. And then what we could do, we could say that if value 1 is greater than 2, in that case certainly value 1 is the bigger value, so we return value 1, else we can return val 2. So basically the user provides the two integer values, val 1 and val 2, and then inside the find max user defined function, the computer checks which one. If this is the case, value 1 is greater than value 2, in that case it will return value 1 because value 1 is the maximum. Else, since value 1 is not the maximum, in that case certainly value 2 will be the maximum, or it will be equal. So in that case we consider, even if it's equal, we consider value 2 to be the maximum. So what we could do is we could do this print f, and we say print an integer, which is basically just find max, passing the value 1 and value 2 to the function find max, and add 3 to it. Add 2, and then we return, so not return, but we print the result. So we replace this part of the code with whatever value we got after doing this basic computation, where these two values are user defined when passed into the as argument into the find max user defined function. In that case it computes which one is the biggest, returns that value, whatever value that we get we add with the remaining two, and we print it. So let's run this, Control S, and then we run it. I made a mistake somewhere. So since I had an opening brace here, I had to put a closing brace over here. We do Control R, and we say the first value is 3, the second value is 2, and the answer is 5. Let's close this, and the answer is 5. So it matches our intuition. And then what we wanted to show you is, imagine that I do not provide this and I do this. In that case, it says that it has no idea about this find max function. So we have to include the information of find max that we have written at the end before main. And the way we do it is called a function prototype. So it's a function prototype for user-defined functions. And so that's how it works. Now let's run this. It works 3 plus 5, then it's 5 plus 2, that means 7. So I hope you get a feeling about how we can create user-defined functions. So we write a comment, user-defined function. So here it takes 2 arguments and returns something. Anything else that I wanted to add? So imagine if I don't put capital I and I just do this. It says that it has no idea about what this is because we got the name wrong. It should be with a capital G and a capital I, so it is case sensitive. And say for instance I want to change this to M, small m, and I run it. It says it has no idea about find max because find max has the name with the capital M. And then imagine that I do this. I actually change this to value, I change this to value, and I change this to value, and I change this to value. And if I run this, I say 3 plus 5, it works 7. So the idea is, it doesn't mean that the whatever value we have here or the whatever variable name we set over here, it has to match the name over here when we define the user-defined function. Basically what happens is these two values, when passed into this function as arguments with using the concept of pass by value, what happens is whatever value was inside these two things is being copied and given a new name, value 1 and value 2. And then using that value 1 and value 2 as a copy of the original val 1 and val 2, it computes which one is the highest, returns a copy of that value as an integer, and that copy of the value is saved here and then added to 2, and we find the result. So that's how it works. Usually you start to use these things, and later on when we talk about scopes, these things will start to make more sense. However, just for the sake of the time, always always be careful and don't really worry about these things too much as long as you're consistent. So what do I mean by consistent? If you're using value over here, make sure you always use value, the same name, variable name here inside the function, and whatever name you have outside, you can easily pass it in, and the values that you pass it in will be passed to the find max function and saved inside these variables as a copy. So even though the names here is val 2 and val 1 and this is value 1 and value 2, it doesn't matter because these values, these two different values, are saved in this location even though they have a different name. I hope I didn't make you guys get too much confused. So okay, thanks.